The Science of Getting Rich. Wallace Wattles. Chapter 1. The Right to be Rich. Regardless of the praise of poverty, the fact is that it is not possible to live a truly complete or successful life unless one is rich. No man can rise to his highest possible height in talent or development of the soul unless you have a lot of money, because to unfold the soul and develop talent he must have many things to use, and he cannot have these things unless he has money to buy them. Man develops himself in mind, soul and body by making use of things, and society is organized in such a way that man must have money to become the possessor of things. Therefore, the basis of all advancement for man must be the science of becoming rich. The object of all life is development, and everything that lives has an inalienable right to all the development that it is capable of achieving. Man's right to life means his right to have the free and unrestricted use of all things that he can be necessary for their most complete mental, spiritual and physical development, or, in other words, your right to be rich. In this book, I will not talk about riches figuratively. To be truly rich does not mean to be satisfied or content with a little. No man should be satisfied with a little if he is able to use and enjoy more. The purpose of nature is the progress and development of life, and every man should have everything that can contribute to the power, elegance, beauty, and richness of life. To be content with less is a sin. The man who has everything he wants to live all the life he is capable of living is rich, and no man who has not much money can have everything he wants. Life has advanced so much, and become so complex, that even the most ordinary man or woman requires a great deal of wealth to be able to live in a way that even comes close to fullness. Each person naturally wants to become all that they are capable of being. This desire to realize innate possibilities is inherent in human nature. We can't help but want to be everything we can be. Success in life consists of becoming what you want to be. You can only become what you want to be by using things, and you can only have the free use of things when you become rich enough to buy them. Understanding science getting rich is, therefore, the most essential of all knowledge. There is nothing wrong with wanting to get rich. The desire for wealth is really the desire for a better life. Richer, fuller and more abundant, and that desire is laudable. The man who does not desire to live more abundantly is abnormal, and the man who does not desire to have enough money to buy everything he wants is also abnormal. There are three reasons why we live. We live for the body, we live for the mind, and we live for the soul. None of them is better or holier than the other, all are equally desirable, and none of the three, body, mind, or soul, can live fully if any of the others is deprived of full life and expression. It is neither right nor noble to live only for the soul and deny the mind or the body, and it is a mistake to live for the intellect and deny the body and soul. We all know the disgusting consequences of living for the body and denying the mind and soul, and we see that true life means the complete expression of all that man can give through body, mind and soul. Whatever may be said, no man can be truly happy or satisfied unless his body lives fully in all its functions, and unless the same is true of his mind and soul. Wherever there is an unexpressed possibility, or an unrealized function, there is a desire. Unsatisfied. Desire is a possibility that seeks its expression, or a function that seeks its fulfillment. Man cannot live fully in his body without good nutrition, clothing, comfort and a warm refuge, and without being free from excessive work. Rest and recreation are also necessary for your physical life. You cannot live fully in the mind without books and time to study them, without opportunity to travel and observe, or without intellectual company. To live fully in the mind you must have intellectual recreations, and you must surround yourself with all the objects of art and beauty that you are capable of. To use and appreciate. To live fully in the soul, man must have love, and love is denied expression by poverty. Man's greatest happiness is found in granting benefits to those he loves, love finds its most natural and spontaneous expression in giving. The man who has nothing to give cannot take his place as a husband or father, as a citizen or as a man. Therefore, it is of supreme importance for him to be rich. Pause equals 500. It is perfectly okay for you to want to be rich. If you are a normal man or woman, you cannot help it. It is perfectly right that you should give your best attention to the science of getting rich, for it is the noblest and most necessary of all studies. If you neglect this study, you will fail in your duty to yourself, to God and to humanity, since you cannot render God and humanity a greater service than to make the most of yourself. There is a science to getting rich. There is a science to becoming rich, and it is an exact science, like algebra or arithmetic. There are certain laws that govern the process of acquiring wealth. Once these laws are learned and obeyed by any man, he will become rich with mathematical certainty. The possession of money and property is the result of doing things in a certain way. Those who do things this certain way, whether on purpose or accidentally, become rich, while those who do not do things this certain way, no matter how hard they work or how capable they are, remain poor. It is a natural law that like causes always produce like effects, and, therefore, any man or woman who learns to do things in this certain way will infallibly become rich. That the above statement is true is demonstrated by the following facts. Getting rich is not a matter of environment, because, if it were, all the inhabitants of certain neighborhoods would become rich, the inhabitants of one city would all be rich, while those in other cities would all be poor, or the inhabitants of one state would roll in wealth, while those of an adjoining state would be in poverty. But everywhere we see rich and poor living side by side, in the same environment, and often engaged in the same vocations. When two men are in the same locality, and in the same business, and one becomes rich while the other remains poor, this shows that getting rich is not primarily a matter of environment. Some environments may be more favorable than others, but when two men engaged in the same business are in the same neighborhood, and one becomes rich while the other fails, this indicates that getting rich is the result of doing things in a certain way. And furthermore, the ability to do things in this true path is not only due to the possession of talent, since many people who have great talent remain poor, while others who have very little talent become rich. When studying people who have become rich, we find that they are an average group in all respects, having no greater talents and abilities than other men. It is evident that they do not become rich because they possess talents and abilities that other men do not have, but because they happen to do things in a certain way. Becoming rich is not the result of savings, or thrift. Many very sad people are poor, while those who spend freely tend to become rich. Nor is becoming rich due to doing things that others do not do, for two men in the same business often do almost exactly the same things, and one becomes rich while the other remains poor or becomes bankrupt. From all this we must conclude that getting rich is the result of doing things a certain way. If getting rich is the result of doing things a certain way, and if like causes always produce like effects, then any man or woman who can do things in this way can become rich, and the whole matter enters the domain of exact science. The question arises here whether this certain way will not be so difficult that only a few can follow it. This cannot be true, as we have seen, of natural ability. Talented people get rich, and knuckleheads get rich. They enrich, intellectually brilliant people get rich, and very stupid people get rich. Physically strong people become richer, and the weak and sick become richer. A certain degree of ability to think and understand is, of course, essential, but as far as natural ability is concerned, any man or woman who has enough common sense to read and understand these words can certainly become rich. Furthermore, we have seen that it is not a matter of environment. Location counts. One would not go to the heart of the Sahara and expect to make a successful business. Getting rich implies the need to deal with men, and to be where there are people to deal with, and if these people are inclined to treat you the way you want, so much the better. But that's as far as the environment goes. If anyone else in your city can get rich, you too, and if anyone else in your state can get rich, so can you. Again, it's not about choosing a particular business or profession. People get rich in all businesses and in all professions, while their next-door neighbors in the same vocation remain in poverty. It is true that one does better in a business that he likes and that is related, and if one has certain well-developed talents, one does better in a business that requires the exercise of those talents. Furthermore, a business that adapts to your locality will do better. An ice cream parlor will do better in a warm climate than in Greenland, and a salmon fishery will be more successful in the Northwest than in Florida, where there are no salmon. But, apart from these general limitations, getting rich will not. It depends on you being in a specific business, but on learning to do things a certain way. If you are in business now, and anyone else in your area is getting rich in the same business, while you are not getting rich, it is because you are not doing things the same way the other person is doing them. No one is prevented from getting rich due to lack of capital. It is true that, as capital is obtained, the increase becomes easier and faster, but he who has capital is already rich, and does not need to consider how to become so. No matter how poor you are, if you start doing things True's way, you will start to get rich, and you will begin to have capital. The raising of capital is a part of the process of becoming rich, and it is a part of the result that invariably follows doing things the right way. You may be the poorest man on the continent, and deeply in debt. You may have no friends, no influence, no resources, but if you start doing things this way, you will infallibly begin to get rich, because similar causes must produce similar effects. If you don't have capital, you can get it. If you are in the wrong business, you can get into the right business. If you are in the wrong location, you can go to the right location, and you can do it by starting in your current business and location in a certain way that causes success. Chapter 3. Is the opportunity monopolized? No man remains poor because opportunity has been taken away from him, because other people have monopolized the wealth, and have put a fence around it. You may be prevented from doing business in certain lines, but there are other channels open to you. It would probably be difficult for him to gain control of any of the large railway systems. That field is quite well monopolized. But the electric railway business is still in its infancy and offers many possibilities for the company, and it will only be a few years before air traffic and transportation will become a large industry, and in all its branches will give employment to hundreds of thousands, and perhaps millions, of people. J. Hill and others for a chance in the world of steam railroading. It is true that if you are a worker hired by the steel company you have very little chance of becoming the owner of the plant in which you work, but it is also true that if you start acting in a certain way, you can soon leave the job of the steel company. You can buy a farm of 10 to 40 acres, and go into food production. There are great opportunities at this time for men who live on small tracts of land and farm them intensively. Such men will undoubtedly become rich. You may say that it is impossible for you to get land, but I am going to show you that it is not impossible, and that you can certainly get a farm if you set to work in a certain way. Periods. The tide of opportunity heads in different directions, according to the needs of the whole and the particular stage of social evolution that has been reached. Today, in the United States, is directed toward agriculture and related industries and professions. Today, the opportunity is open to the farmer in his line rather than to the factory worker in his line. It is open to the businessman who supplies the farmer more than to the one who supplies the factory worker, and before the professional man who serves the farmer rather than the one who serves the working class. There are plenty of opportunities for the man who goes with the tide, instead of trying to swim against it. Equals 500, so factory workers, whether as individuals or as a class, are not deprived of opportunity. Workers are not being held down by their masters, they are not being ground down by trusts and capital combinations. They are where they are because they don't do things a certain way. If the workers of America decided to do it, They could follow the example of their brothers in Belgium and other countries, and establish large warehouses and cooperative industries. They could elect men of their own class to office, and pass laws that favored the development of such cooperative industries. And in a few years they could peacefully take possession of the industrial countryside. The working class can become the ruling class as long as it starts doing things a certain way. The law of wealth is the same for them as for everyone else. This they must learn, and they will remain where they are as long as they continue to do what they do. The individual worker, however, is not bound by the ignorance or mental laziness of his class. You can follow the tide of opportunity to wealth, and this book will tell you how. No one is kept in poverty by a shortage in the supply of wealth. There is more than enough for everyone. A palace as large as the Capitol in Washington could be built for every family on Earth with only the building materials of the United States, and under intensive cultivation, this country would produce enough wool, cotton, linen, and silk to clothe every person in the world more finely than Solomon clothed himself in all his glory, along with enough food to feed them all luxuriously. The visible supply is virtually inexhaustible, and the invisible supply really is inexhaustible. Everything you see on earth is made of one original substance, from which all things come. New forms are constantly created, and the oldest ones dissolve, but they are all forms assumed by one thing. There is no limit to the supply of formless matter, or original substance. The universe is made of it, but it was not used in its entirety to create the universe. The spaces within, through, and between the forms of the visible universe are permeated and filled with the original substance, of formless matter, of the raw material of all things. One could still make 10,000 times more than what has been done, and even then the universal raw material would not have been exhausted. Therefore, no man is poor because nature is poor, or because there is not enough for everyone. Nature is an inexhaustible storehouse of riches. The supply will never run out. The original substance is alive with creative energy, and is constantly producing more forms. When the building material is exhausted, more will be produced. When the soil is exhausted so that food and clothing materials no longer grow on it, it will be renewed or made more soil. When all the gold and silver has been extracted from the earth, if the man is still at a stage of social development such that he needs gold and silver, more formless matter will be produced. Formless matter responds to man's needs. He will not let him lack any good. This is true of man collectively. The race as a whole is always abundantly rich, and if individuals are poor, it is because they do not follow the certain way of doing things that makes the individual man rich. Formless matter is intelligent. It is thinking matter. It is alive, and it is always driven towards more life. The natural and inherent impulse of life is to try to live more, the nature of intelligence is to expand, and that of consciousness is to seek to extend its limits and find fuller expression. The universe of forms has been made by formless living substance, launching itself into the form to express itself more fully. The universe is one great living presence, always inherently moving toward more life and fuller functioning. Nature is formed for the progress of life, its driving motive is the increase of life. For this reason, everything that can serve life is generously provided. There can be no lack, unless God contradicts himself and nullifies his own works. You are not kept poor by lack of supply of wealth. It is a fact that I will demonstrate a little later that even the resources of the formless supply are at the command of the man or woman who will act and think in a certain way. Chapter 4. The first principle in the science of getting rich. Thought is the only power that can produce tangible riches from formless substance. The stuff of which all things are made is a thinking substance, and a thought of form in this substance produces the form. The original substance moves according to its thoughts. Every form and process you see in nature is the visible expression of a thought in the original substance. When formless matter thinks of form, it takes that form. When you think of a move, you make that move. This is how all things were created. We live in a world of thoughts, which is part of a universe of thoughts. Pause equals 500. The thought of a universe in motion spread throughout the formless substance, and thinking matter, moving according to that thought, took the form of systems of planets, and maintains that form. Thinking matter takes the form of its thought, and moves according to the thought. Maintaining the idea of a surrounding system of suns and worlds, it takes the form of these bodies, and moves them according to his thought. Thinking of the shape of an oak that grows slowly, he moves accordingly and produces the tree, although it takes centuries to do the work. When creating, the formless appears to move according to the lines of movement it has established. The thought of an oak does not cause the instantaneous formation of a fully developed tree, but it does set in motion the forces that will produce the tree, according to the established lines of growth. Every thought of form, sustained in the thinking substance, causes the creation of form, but always, or at least generally, along already established lines of growth and action. The thought of a house of a certain construction, if it were imprinted on the formless substance, might not cause the instantaneous formation of the house, but it would cause the turning of the creative energies already at work in commerce into such channels as to give rise to the rapid construction of the house. And if there were no channels through which the creative energy could work, then the house would be formed directly from the primitive substance, without waiting for the slow processes of the organic and inorganic world. No thought of form can be impressed upon the original substance without causing the creation of the form. Man is a thinking center and can originate thought. All the forms that man creates with his hands must exist first in his thought. He cannot shape a thing until he has thought it. And hitherto man has confined his efforts entirely to the work of his hands, has applied manual labor to the world of forms, seeking to change or modify existing ones. He has never thought of trying to provoke the creation of new forms by imprinting his thoughts on formless substance. When man has a form of thought, he takes the material from the forms of nature, and makes an image of the form that is in his mind. Until now he has made little or no effort to cooperate with formless intelligence, to work with the Father. He has not dreamed that he can do what he sees the Father doing. Man remodels and modifies existing forms through manual labor. He has not paid attention to the question whether he cannot produce things from formless substance by communicating his thoughts. We propose to show that he can do so, demonstrate that any man or woman can do it, and show how. As a first step, we must establish three fundamental propositions. First, we affirm that there is an original formless matter, or substance, of which all things are made. All apparently numerous elements are nothing more than different presentations of one element. All the many forms found in organic and inorganic nature are but different forms, made of the same matter. And this matter is thinking matter. A thought held in it produces the form of thought. Thought, in the thinking substance, produces forms. Man is a thinking center, capable of an original thought. If man can communicate his thought to the original thinking substance, he can cause the creation, or formation, of the thing that thinks. To summarize this, there is a thinking matter of which all things are made. Things, and that, in its original state, permeates, penetrates and fills the interstices of the universe. A thought, in this substance, produces the thing that is imagined by the thought. Man can form things in his thought, and, by impressing his thought on formless substance, he can cause the thing of which he thinks to be believed. It may be asked whether I can prove these statements, and without going into details, I answer that I can do it, both by logic and by experience. Reasoning backward from the phenomena of form and thought, he arrived at an original thinking substance, and reasoning forward from this thinking substance, he arrived at the power of man to cause the formation of the thinking thing. And by experiment, I find the reasoning to be true, and this is my strongest proof. If a man who reads this book becomes rich by doing what it tells him to do, that is proof in support of my assertion. But if every man who does what he is told to do gets rich, that is proof positive until someone goes through the process and fails. The theory is true until the process fails, and this process will not fail, because every man who does exactly what this book tells him to do will get rich. I have said that men get rich by doing things a certain way, and to do this, men must become able to think in a certain way. A man's way of doing things is the direct result of his way of thinking. To think what you want to think is to think the truth, regardless of appearances. Every man has the natural and inherent power to think what he wants. Who wants to think, but it requires much more effort to do so than to think the thoughts that are suggested by appearances. Thinking according to appearances is easy. To think the truth without regard to appearances is laborious, and requires the expenditure of more power than any other work that man is called upon to perform. There is no work to which most people retracts as if it were sustained and consecutive thought. It is the hardest work in the world. This is especially true when the truth is contrary to appearances. Every appearance in the visible world tends to produce a corresponding form in the mind who observes her, and this can only be avoided by holding the thought of truth. Looking at the appearance of the disease will produce the form of the disease in your own mind, and ultimately in your body, unless you hold the thought of the truth, which is that there is no disease, it is only an appearance, and the reality is health. Looking at the appearances of poverty will produce corresponding forms in your own mind, unless you hold fast to the truth that there is no poverty, there is only abundance. To think of health when surrounded by the appearances of illness, or to think of wealth when amidst the appearances of poverty, requires power, but whoever acquires this power becomes a mastermind. He can conquer destiny, he can have what he wants. This power can only be acquired by grasping the basic fact behind all appearances, and that fact is that there is a thinking substance, of which and by which all things are made. Then we must understand the truth that every thought held in this substance becomes a form, and that man can imprint his thoughts on it in such a way as to make them take shape and become visible things. When we realize this, we lose all doubts and fear, because we know that we can create what we want to create, we can get what we want to have, and we can become what we want to be. As a first step to becoming rich, you must believe in the three fundamental statements given earlier in this chapter, and to emphasize them, I repeat them here: there is a thinking matter of which all things are made, and that, in its original state, permeates, penetrates and fills the interstices of the universe. A thought, in this substance, he produces the thing that is imagined by thought. Man can form things in his thought, and, by impressing his thought on the formless substance, he can cause the thing to be created in the one who thinks. You must put aside all other concepts of the universe other than this monistic one, and you must insist on it until it has fixed itself in your mind and has become your habitual thought. Read these statements of the Creed again and again, fix each word in your memory and meditate on them until you firmly believe in what they say. If a doubt arises, cast it aside as a sin. Do not listen to arguments against this idea, do not go to churches or conferences where a contrary concept of things is taught or preached. Do not read magazines or books that teach a different idea. If you are confused in your faith, all your efforts will be in vain. Do not ask why these things are true, nor speculate about how they can be true, simply trust them. The science of getting rich begins with the absolute acceptance of this faith. Chapter 5. Increase life. You must get rid of the last vestige of the old idea that there is a deity whose will is that you should be poor, or whose purposes can be served by keeping you poor. The intelligent substance that is everything, and in everything, and which lives in everything and lives in you, is a consciously living substance. Being a consciously living substance, it must have the natural and inherent desire of all living intelligence to increase life. Every living thing must continually seek to increase its life, because life, in the mere act of living, must increase itself. A seed dropped into the ground comes into activity and, in the act of living, it produces 100 more seeds. Life, as it lives, multiplies. It is always becoming something more, it must do so, if it continues to be. Intelligence is under this same need of continuous increase. Every thought we think makes it necessary for us to think another thought. Consciousness continually expands. Each fact we learn leads us to the learning of another fact. Knowledge is continually increasing. Each talent we cultivate brings to mind the desire to cultivate another talent. We are subject to the impulse of life, seeking expression, which always drives us to know more, to do more and to be more. To know more, do more and be more, we must have more, we must have things to use, because we learn, do, and become only by using things. We must become rich in order to live longer. The desire for wealth is simply the capacity for a longer life. Great that seeks its fulfillment, all desire is the effort of an unexpressed possibility to come into action. It is the power that seeks to manifest itself that causes desire. What makes you desire more money is what same as what makes the plant grow, it is life, seeking fuller expression. The one living substance must be subject to this law inherent to all life, it is impregnated with the desire to live longer, that is why it is under the need to create things. The one substance desires to live more in you, that's why he wants you to have all the things you can use. God's desire is for you to become rich. He wants you to be rich because he can express himself better through you if you have many things to use to give it expression. He can live more in you if you have unlimited mastery of the means of life. The universe wants you to have everything you want to have. Nature is a friend of your plans. Everything is naturally for you. Make up your mind that this is true. Without, however, it is essential that your purpose be in harmony with the purpose in everything. You must want real life, not mere pleasure or sensual gratification. Life is the performance of a function, and the individual only truly lives when he performs all the functions, physical, mental and spiritual, of which he is capable, without exceeding any of them. You do not want to get rich to live carelessly, for the gratification of others. Animal desires, that is not life. But the performance of every physical function is part of life, and one who denies the body's impulses a normal and healthy expression does not live completely. No, you want to get rich only to enjoy mental pleasures, to gain knowledge, to gratify ambition, to outshine others, to be famous. All this is a legitimate part of life, but man who lives only for the pleasures of the intellect will only have a partial life, and will never be satisfied with his lot. You do not want to get rich just for the sake of others, lose yourself for the salvation of humanity, experience the joys of philanthropy in sacrifice. The joys of the soul are only a part of life, and they are no better or nobler than any other part. You want to get rich so that you can eat, drink, and be merry when it is time to do these things, to be able to surround yourself with beautiful things, see distant lands, feed your mind and develop your intellect, so that I can love men and do kind things, and can play a good role in helping the world find the truth. But remember that extreme altruism is not better or nobler than extreme selfishness, both are errors. Of the idea that God wants you to sacrifice yourself for others, and that you can secure his favor by doing so, God does not require any of that. What he wants is for you to bring out the best in yourself, for yourself and for others, and you can help others by bringing out the best in yourself than in any other way. You can only bring out the best in yourself by becoming rich, so it is just and praiseworthy that you should devote your first and best thought to the work of acquiring wealth. Remember, however, that the desire of the substance is for all, and its movements must be for more life for everyone. It cannot be made to work for less life for anyone, because it is equally in everyone, seeking riches and life. The intelligent substance will do things for you, but it will not take things from another to give them to you. You must get rid of the thought of competition. You are there to create, not to compete for what is already created. You should not take anything away from anyone. They don't have to lead to the sharpest offers. You don't have to cheat, nor take advantage. You don't have to let any man work for you for less than he earns. You do not have to covet the property of others, nor look at it with eyes of desire, no man has anything that you cannot have the same, and that is without taking away what he has. You are going to become a creator, not a competitor. You are going to get what you want, but in such a way that when you get it all the other men will have more than they have now. I am aware that there are men who make a lot of money by proceeding directly opposition to the statements in the previous paragraph, and I may add a word of explanation here. Plutocratic types who become very rich sometimes do so purely because of their extraordinary skill at the level of competition, and are sometimes unconsciously related to the substance in its great purposes and movements for general racial edification through industrial evolution. Rockefeller, Carnegie, Morgan, and others, have been the unconscious agents of the supreme in the necessary work to systematize and organize the productive industry, and in the end, your work will contribute immensely to increasing life for all. Your day is about to end, they have organized production, and they will soon be succeeded by the agents of the multitude, who will organize the machinery of distribution. The billionaires are like the monstrous reptiles of prehistoric times. They play a necessary role in the evolutionary process, but the same power that produced them will get rid of them. And it is good to keep in mind that they have never been truly rich. A record of the private lives of the majority of this class will show that they have really been the most abject and miserable of the poor. Riches obtained competitively are never satisfactory and permanent. Today they are yours and tomorrow they are someone else's. Remember that if you want to get rich in a scientific and safe way, you must completely get out of competitive thinking. You should not think for a moment that the supply is limited. As soon as you start thinking that all the money is being cornered and controlled by bankers and others, and that you should work to get laws passed to stop this process, etc. At that moment you fall into the competitive mind, and your power to bring about creation disappears for the moment. And worse, you will probably stop the creative movements you have already instituted. Know that there are untold millions of dollars of gold in the mountains of the earth, which have not yet seen the light, and he knows that if there were not, more of the thinking substance would be created to supply his needs. Know that the money you need will come, even if it is necessary that tomorrow 1,000 men be led to the discovery of new mines of gold. Never look at the visible supply. Always look at the limitless riches in formless substance, and know that they are coming to you as fast as you can receive and use them. No one, by hoarding the visible supply, can prevent you from obtaining what is yours. Pause equals 500, so don't let yourself think for a moment that all the best building spots will be taken before you get ready to build your house, unless you hurry. Never don't worry about trusts and combines, nor be distressed for fear that they will soon own all the land. Never be afraid of losing what you want because someone else beats you. That cannot happen. You are not looking for anything that another person possesses. You are causing what you want to be created from formless substance, and the supply is unlimited. Stick to the statement made: there is a thinking matter of which all things are made and which, in its original state, permeates, penetrates and fills the interstices of the universe. A thought, in this substance, produces the thing that is imagined by the thought. Man can form things in his thought, and, by impressing his thought upon the formless substance, he can cause the thing of which he thinks to be created. Chapter 6. How Riches Come. When I say that you don't have to make any sharp deals, I don't mean that you don't have to make any deals, or that you are above the need to make deals with your fellow men. I mean that you won't have to make any sharp deals with them unjustly. You don't have to get something for nothing, but you can give each man more than you take from him. You cannot give each man more market value than you take from him, but more use value may be given to it than the cash value of what is taken away. The paper, ink, and other materials in this book may not be worth the money you paid for it, but if the ideas suggested by him bring you thousands of dollars, you have not been harmed by those who sold it to you. They have given it a great use value for a small cash value. Suppose I own a painting by one of the great artists which, in any civilized community, is worth thousands of dollars. He took it to Baffin Bay, and by sale induced an Eskimo to give a bundle of furs worth $500 for it. I have really wronged him, because he didn't. The painting is of no use to him, it has no use value for him, it won't add anything to your life. But suppose I give you a gun worth $50 for your furs, then you have made a good deal. The weapon will be useful to you, with it you will get many more skins and a lot of food, it will improve your life in every way, it will make him rich. When you rise from the competitive to the creative plane, you can analyze your business transactions very strictly, and if you are selling some man something that adds no more to his life than it gives you in return, you can afford to stop it. In business you don't have to beat anyone. And if you're in a business that beats people up, get out of it immediately. Pause equals 500, give to every man more in use value than you take from him in monetary value, then you are adding to the life of the world with every business transaction. If you have people working for you, you must take more cash value from them than you pay them in wages, but you can organize your business in such a way that it is filled with the principle of advancement, and that every employee who wants to can advance a little each day. You can make your business do for its employees whatever it wants. Book is doing for you. You can run your company in such a way that it is a kind of ladder by which every employee who takes the trouble can ascend to wealth, and if he has the opportunity, if he does not, it is not his fault. And, finally, how you are to bring about the creation of your wealth from the formless substance that permeates your entire environment, is not known. Deduce that they must take form from the atmosphere and be born before your eyes. If you want a sewing machine, for example, I do not want to tell you to imprint the thought of a sewing machine in the substance of thought until the machine is formed without hands, in the room where you are sitting, or in another place. But if you want a sewing machine, maintain the mental image of it with the most positive certainty that it is being made, or it is on its way to you. Once the thought is formed, have the most absolute and unquestionable faith that the sewing machine is coming, never think of her, nor speak of her, other than as if she were sure to come. Claim her as if she were already yours. It will be brought to you by the power of the supreme intelligence, acting upon the minds of men. If you live in Maine, it may be that a man will be brought from Texas or Japan to engage in some transaction that will result in you getting what that he wants. If so, the whole matter will be as advantageous to that man as it is to yours. Do not forget for a moment that thinking substance is through it all. In everything, communicating with everything, and can influence everything. The desire of thinking substance to have a fuller and better life has caused the creation of already made sewing machines, and it can cause the creation of millions more, and will, provided men set it in motion by desire and faith, and acting in a certain way. You can certainly have a sewing machine in your home, and it is just as true that you may have any other thing or things that you desire, and that you will use for the advancement of your own life and that of others. You need not hesitate to ask for it greatly, your Father likes to give you the kingdom, said Jesus. The original substance wants to live all that is possible in you, and it wants you to have all that you can or want to use to live the longest life. Abundant. If you fix in your consciousness the fact that the desire you feel for the possession of wealth is one with omnipotence's desire for fuller expression, your faith becomes invincible. Pause. Equals 500. I once saw a little boy sitting at the piano, and vainly trying to get harmony from the keys, and I saw that he was distressed and provoked by his inability to play real music. I asked him the cause of his vexation, and he replied, I can feel the music in me, but I cannot make my hands go well. The music in him was the impulse of the original substance, which contained all the possibilities of all life. All that there is of music sought expression through the child. God, the one substance, is trying to live, do, and enjoy things through humanity. He is saying, I want my hands to build wonderful structures, to play divine harmonies, to paint glorious pictures. I want my feet to do my errands, my eyes to see my beauties, my tongues to speak powerful truths and sing wonderful songs, etc. Pause equals 500. Everything that is possible seeks its expression through men. God wants those who know how to play music to have pianos and any other instrument, and to have the means to cultivate their talents to the fullest. He wants those who know how to appreciate beauty to be able to surround themselves with beautiful things. He wants those who know how to discern the truth to have every opportunity to travel and observe. He wants those who know how to appreciate clothing to be beautifully dressed, and that those who know how to appreciate good food are luxuriously fed. He wants all these things because it is He Himself who enjoys and appreciates them. It is God who wants to play, and sing, and enjoy beauty, and proclaim the truth, and wear fine clothes, and eat good food. It is God who works in you to will and to do, said Pablo. The desire you feel for riches is the infinite, which seeks to express itself in you as it sought to express itself in the child at the piano. So there is no need to hesitate in ask a lot. Your part is to focus and express God's desires. This is a difficult point with most people. They retain something of the old idea that poverty and self-sacrifice are pleasing to God. They regard poverty as a part of the plan, a necessity of nature. They have the idea that God has finished His work, and has done all that He can do, and that most men must remain poor because there is not enough to go around. They cling so tightly to this erroneous thought that they are ashamed to ask for riches. They try not to want more than a very modest competence, enough to be quite comfortable. I now remember the case of a student who was told that he must have in his mind a clear image of the things he desired, so that their creative thought would be imprinted on the formless substance. He was a very poor man, who lived in a rented house, and who only had what he earned from day to day, and he could not comprehend the fact that all the wealth was his. So, after thinking about the matter, he decided that he could reasonably ask for a new rug for the floor of his best room, and a stove of anthracite coal to heat the house during cold weather. Following the instructions in this book, he achieved these things in a few months, and then he realized that he had not asked for enough. The house he lived in and planned all the improvements he would like to make to it. He mentally added a gazebo here and a room there, until it was complete in his mind as his ideal house, and then he planned his furniture. Having the complete picture in his mind, he began to live on the safe path, and move towards what he wanted, and now he owns the house, and is rebuilding it according to the shape of his mental image. And now, with even greater faith, he is going to achieve greater things. It has happened according to your faith, and so it is with you and with all of us. Chapter 7. Gratitude. The illustrations given in the last chapter will have conveyed to the reader the fact that the first step to becoming rich is to transmit the idea of your desires to the formless substance. This is true, and you will see that it is for this purpose. It is necessary to relate to the formless intelligence in a harmonious way. Ensuring this harmonious relationship is a matter of such primary and vital importance that I will give some space to its discussion here, and I will give you instructions that, if you follow them, they will surely bring you to perfect oneness of mind with God. The entire process of mental adjustment and atonement can be summed up in one word: gratitude. First of all, you believe that there is an intelligent substance, from which all things proceed. Secondly, you believe that this substance gives you everything you want, and thirdly, you relate to her through a feeling of deep and profound gratitude. Many people who order their lives correctly in all other respects are kept in poverty by their lack of gratitude. Pause equals 500. Having received a gift from God, they cut the wires that connect them to Him by not making the recognition. It is easy to understand that the closer we live to the source of wealth, the more wealth we will receive, and it is also easy to understand that the soul that is always grateful lives in closer contact with God than the one that never looks towards Him in grateful recognition. The more grateful we fix our minds on the Supreme when the good things, the more good things we will receive and the more quickly they will come, and the reason is simply that the mental attitude of gratitude brings the mind into closer contact with the source from which the blessings come. If it is a new thought to you that gratitude makes all your mind is in greater harmony with the creative energies of the universe, consider it well and you will see that it is true. The good things that you already have come to you along the line of obedience to certain laws. Gratitude will lead your mind along the paths where things come, and it will keep you in close harmony with creative thinking and prevent you from falling into competitive thinking. Only gratitude can keep you looking towards the whole, and prevent you from falling into the mistake of thinking that the supply is limited, and to do so would be fatal to your hopes. There is a law of gratitude, and it is absolutely necessary that you observe it, if you want to obtain the results you seek. The law of gratitude is the natural principle that action and reaction are always equal, and in opposite directions. The grateful extension of your mind in grateful praise to the Supreme is a release or expenditure of strength. It cannot fail to reach for what it is aimed at, and the reaction is an instantaneous movement towards you. Draw near to God, and He will draw near to you. This it is a statement of psychological truth. And if your gratitude is strong and constant, the reaction in the formless substance will be strong and continuous. The movement of the things you want will always be towards you. Notice the attitude of gratitude that Jesus adopted, how He always seems to be saying, "I thank you, Father, that you hear me." You can't wield much power without gratitude, because it is gratitude that keeps you connected to the power. But the value of gratitude is not only in getting you more blessings in the future. Without gratitude you cannot sustain yourself for a long time without a dissatisfied thought regarding things as they are. The moment you allow your mind to dwell with dissatisfaction on things as they are, you begin to lose ground. Pause equals 500. You fix your attention on the common, the ordinary, the poor and the squalid and mean, and your mind takes the form of these things. Then you will transmit these forms or mental images to the formless, and the common, the poor, the squalid and the mean will come to you. On the other hand, to fix your attention on the best is to surround yourself with the best, and become the best. Pause equals 500. The creative power within us makes us the image of that which we pay attention to. We are thinking substance, and thinking substance always takes the form of that which it thinks of. The grateful mind constantly fixes on the best, therefore it tends to become the best. Take the form or character of the best, and you will receive the best. Furthermore, faith is born of gratitude. The grateful mind continually expects good things, and the expectation becomes faith. The reaction of gratitude on one's own mind produces faith, and each outgoing wave of gratitude increases faith. He who does not have a feeling of gratitude cannot long retain a living faith, and without a living faith it cannot be enriched by the creative method, as we will see in the following chapters. It is necessary, therefore, to cultivate the habit of being grateful for every good thing that comes to you, and give thanks continually. And since all things have contributed to your advancement, you must include all things in your gratitude. Do not waste time thinking or talking about the defects or the wrong actions of plutocrats or trust magnates. Their organization of the world has made your opportunity. Everything you get really comes to you because of them. Don't take it out on corrupt politicians. If it weren't for politicians we would fall into anarchy, and your opportunity would be greatly diminished. God has worked long and patiently to get us to where we are in industry and government, and He continues onward with His work. There is not the slightest doubt that He will put an end to the plutocrats, the trust magnates, the captains of industry and the politicians as soon as they can be forgiven, but in the meantime, behold, they are all very good. Remember that they are all helping to organize the lines of transmission along which your riches will reach you, and be grateful to them all. This will cause you to enter into harmonious relationships with the good in everything, and the good in everything will move towards you. Chapter 8. Think accurately. Go back to chapter 6, and read again the story of the man who formed a mental image of his house, and you will have a good idea of the initial step to becoming rich. You must form a clear and definite mental image of what you want. You can't convey an idea unless you have it yourself. You have to have it before you can give it, and many people fail to impress thinking substance because they themselves have only a vague and nebulous concept of the things they want to do, have, or become. It is not enough to have a general desire for wealth, for do good, everyone has that desire. It is not enough to have a desire to travel, see things, live more, etc. Everyone also has those desires. If you were to send a wireless message to a friend, you would not send him the letters of the alphabet in their order, and you would let him construct the message himself, nor would you take random words from the dictionary. You would send a coherent phrase, which means something. When you try to convey your desires to the substance, remember that you must do so through a coherent statement. You must know what you want and be definitive. You will never be able to enrich yourself, nor put creative power into motion, by sending out unformed yearnings and vague desires. Review your desires like the man who I have described reviewed his house. See just what you want and make a clear mental image of what you want it to be like when you get it. You must keep that clear mental image continually in mind, as a sailor keeps in mind the port toward which the ship is sailing. Ship, you must keep your face towards it at all times. You must not lose sight of it any more than the helmsman loses sight of the compass. It is not necessary to do concentration exercises, nor set aside special times for prayer and affirmation, or enter into silence, or do occult stunts of any kind. These things are fine, but all you need is to know what you want, and want it enough to keep it in your thoughts. Spend all the free time you can looking at your painting, but no one needs to do exercises to concentrate their mind on one thing they really want. It's the things you don't really care about that require an effort to focus your attention on. And unless you really want to get rich, so that the desire is strong enough to keep your thoughts directed to the purpose as the magnetic pole maintains the needle of the compass, it will hardly be worth your while to attempt to carry out the instructions given in this book. The methods here set forth are for people whose desire for wealth is strong enough to overcome mental laziness and the love of ease, and make them work. The clearer and more defined your image is, then, and the more you dwell on it, bringing out all its delicious details, the stronger your desire will be, and the stronger your desire, the easier it will be to keep your mind fixed on the image of what you want. However, more is necessary than simply seeing the image clearly. If that is all you do, you are but a dreamer, and will have little or no power of realization. Behind your clear vision must be the purpose of realizing it, to carry it out in a tangible expression. And behind this purpose there must be an invincible and unbreakable faith that the thing is already yours, that it is, at hand, and that you just have to take possession of it. Live in the new house, mentally, until it takes shape around you physically. In the realm mental, enter immediately into the full enjoyment of the things you want. Whatever you ask for when you pray, believe that you receive it and you will have it, said Jesus. See the things you want as if they were really around you all the time, see them as if you own them and you will use them. Use them in your imagination just as you will use them when they are your tangible possessions. Reflect on your mental image until it is clear and sharp, and then adopt the mental attitude of ownership toward everything that appears in that image. Take possession of it, in your mind, with full faith that it is truly yours. Maintain this mental property, do not waver for a moment in the faith that it is real. And remember what was said in a previous chapter about gratitude, be as grateful for it all the time as you hope to be when it has taken shape. The man who can sincerely thank God for the things which he still possesses only in imagination, has true faith. He will become rich, it will cause the creation of everything you want. You don't need to pray repeatedly for the things you want, you don't have to tell God every day. Do not use vain repetitions as the pagans do. Jesus said to his students, for your Father knows that you have need of these things before ask for them. Your part is to intelligently formulate your desire for the things that make a life greater, and to get these desires organized into a coherent whole, and then impress this total desire on the formless substance, which has the power and the will to bring you what you want. This impression is not made by repeating chains of words, it is done by holding the vision with the unwavering purpose to achieve it, and with the firm faith that you achieve it. The answer to prayer is not according to your faith as you speak, but according to your faith as you work. Pause equals 500. You can't impress God's mind by having a special Sabbath day to tell him what you want, and then forgetting about him for the rest of the week. You can't impress him having special hours to go to your closet and pray, if you then put the matter out of your mind until the hour of prayer comes again. Oral prayer is all right, and has its effect, especially in yourself, to clarify your vision and strengthen your faith, but it is not your oral requests that get you what you want. To get rich you do not need a sweet hour of prayer, you need to pray without ceasing. And by prayer I mean holding firmly to your vision, with the purpose of bringing about its creation in solid form, and the faith that you are doing so. Believe that you will receive them. The whole matter revolves around reception, once you have clearly formed your vision. When you have formed it, it is good make an oral declaration, addressing the Supreme Court in reverent prayer, and from that moment you must, in mind, receive what you ask for. Live in the new house, wear fine clothing, travels in the car, take the journey, and confidently plan larger trips. Think and talk about all the things you have asked for in terms of current property. Imagine an environment and financial condition exactly as you love them, and you live all the time in that imaginary environment and financial condition. However, keep in mind that you do not do so as a mere dreamer and castle builder. Keep in faith that the imaginary is being realized, and in the purpose of realizing it. Remember that it is faith and purpose in the use of the imagination that makes the difference between the scientist and the dreamer. And having learned this fact, it is here that you must learn the proper use of the will. Chapter 9. How to use the will. To get rich scientifically, do not try to apply your willpower to anything outside of yourself. You have no right to do so anyway. It is a mistake to apply your willpower to other men and women, to get them to do what you want. It is as blatantly wrong to coerce people through mental power as it is to question them through physical power. If forcing people by physical force to do things for you reduces them to slavery, forcing them by mental means achieves exactly the same thing, the only difference is in the methods. If taking things from people by physical force is theft, then taking things by mental force is also theft. There is no difference in principle. You have no right to use your willpower on another person, not even for their own good, because you don't know what it is for your good. The science of getting rich does not require you to apply power or force to anyone else, in any way. There is no the slightest need to do so. In fact, any attempt to use your will on others will only tend to defeat your purpose. You do not need to apply your will to things to force them to come to you. That would simply be try to coerce God, and it would be foolish and useless, as well as irreverent. You don't have to force God to give you good things, any more than you have to use your willpower to make the sun rise. You do not have to use your willpower to conquer a hostile deity, or to make stubborn and rebellious forces do your will. The substance is friendly to you and is more eager to give you what you want than to get it. To become rich, you just have to use your willpower on yourself. When you know what you should think and do, then you should using your will to force yourself to think and do the right things. That is the legitimate use of will to get what you want, using it to keep you on the right path. Use your will to keep you thinking and acting on the safe path. Do not try to project your will, or your thoughts, or your mind into space, to act on things or people. Pause equals 500. Keep your mind at home, you can achieve further than anywhere else. Use your mind to form a mental image of what you want, and to hold that vision with faith and purpose, and use your will to keep your mind working on the right path. The firmer and more continuous your faith and purpose are, the more quickly they will enrich you, because you will only make positive impressions on the substance, and not neutralize them or offset them with negative impressions. The image of your desires, held with faith and purpose, is taken by the formless, and permeated to great distances, throughout the universe, by what I know. As this impression spreads, all things are set in motion toward its realization. Every living thing, every inanimate thing and things not yet created, move towards the realization of what you want. All the force begins to be exerted in that direction, all things begin to move towards you. The minds of people, everywhere, are influenced to do the things necessary for the fulfillment of your desires, and they work for you, unconsciously. But you can check all this by initiating a negative impression on the formless substance. Doubt or disbelief is just as sure to initiate a movement away as faith and purpose are to initiate one towards you. It is because of not understanding this that most people who try to make use of mental science to get rich, fail. Pause equals 500. Every hour and moment that you spend in giving attention to doubts and fears, every hour that you spend in worry, every hour that your soul is possessed by unbelief, establishes a current away from you throughout the domain of the intelligent substance. All promises are for those who believe, and only for them. Notice how insistent Jesus was on this point of belief, and now you know the reason. Since belief is the most important thing, it is up to you to watch your thoughts, and how your beliefs will be greatly shaped by the things you observe and think. It is important that you direct your attention. And here the will comes into play, because it is by your will that you determine what things your attention will focus on. If you want to become rich, you should not make a study of poverty. Things do not come true by thinking in their opposites. Health is never achieved by studying illness and thinking about illness. Righteousness is not promoted by studying sin and thinking about sin, and no one became rich by studying poverty and thinking about poverty. Medicine, as a science of disease, has increased disease. Religion, as a science of sin, has promoted sin, and economics, as a study of poverty, will fill the world with misery and need. Do not talk about poverty, do not investigate it, or worry about it for her. Do not worry about its causes, you have nothing to do with them. What worries you is the cure. Do not spend your time on works of charity, nor on charitable movements. All charity only tends to perpetuate the misery it seeks to eradicate. I am not saying that you should be hard-hearted or unkind, and refuse to listen to the cry of need, but you must not try to eradicate poverty in any of the conventional ways. Leave poverty behind, and leave behind everything that belongs to it, and do good. And you can't maintain the mental image that will make you rich if you fill your mind with images of poverty. Don't read books or newspapers that realize the misery of the inhabitants of the tenements, the horrors of child labor, etc. Do not read anything that fills your mind with gloomy images of need and suffering. You cannot help the poor in the least by knowing these things, and widespread knowledge of them does not tend at all to eliminate poverty. What tends to end poverty is not to put images of poverty in your mind, but to put images of poverty in the minds of the poor. Wealth. You are not abandoning the poor in their misery when you refuse to allow your mind to be filled with images of that misery. Can end poverty, not increase number of well-off people who think about poverty, but by increasing the number of poor who set out with faith to become rich. The poor do not need charity, they need inspiration. Charity only sends them a loaf of bread to keep them alive in their misery, or gives them entertainment to make them forget for an hour or two, but inspiration will lift them out of their misery. If you want to help the poor, show them that they can get rich, prove it by becoming rich yourself. The only way to banish poverty from this world is to get a large and growing number of people to practice the teachings of this book. People must be taught to get rich by creating, not by competing. Every man who gets rich by competition pulls behind him the ladder by which he climbs, and keeps others down, but every man who is enriched by creation makes a path for thousands to follow, and inspires them to do so. You are not showing hardness of heart or a callous disposition when you refuse to sympathize with poverty, to see poverty, to read about poverty, or to think or talk about it, or to listen to those who talk about it. Use your willpower to keep your mind off the topic of poverty, and to keep it fixed with faith and purpose on the vision of what you want. Chapter 10. Later Use of the Will. You cannot maintain a true and clear vision of wealth if you constantly direct your attention to opposing images, whether external or imaginary. Do not recount your past financial problems. If you have had them, don't think about them. Don't talk about the poverty of your parents, or the difficulties of your early life. To do any of these things is to mentally class yourself with the poor for the moment, and will certainly slow the movement of things in your direction. Let the dead bury their dead, as Jesus said. Pause equals 500, leave poverty and everything that has to do with it completely behind you. You have accepted a certain theory of the universe as correct, and you are resting all your hopes of happiness on it being correct. Correct, and what can you gain by paying attention to conflicting theories? Don't read religious books that tell you that the world is going to end soon. And do not read the writings of muckrakers and pessimistic philosophers who tell you that it is going to hell. The world is not going to hell, it goes to God. It is a wonderful scholarship. It is true that there may be many unpleasant things in existing conditions, but what is the use of studying them when they are certainly disappearing, and when does its study only tend to stop their disappearance and keep them with us? Why spend time and attention on things that are being eliminated by evolutionary growth, when you can accelerate their elimination just by promoting evolutionary growth to the extent you can? No matter how horrible the conditions of certain countries, sections, or places may seem, you waste time and destroy your own possibilities by taking them into account. You should be interested in the world getting rich. Think of the wealth the world is coming to, rather than the poverty it is coming out of. And keep in mind that the only way you can help the world become rich is by becoming rich yourself through the creative method, not the competitive one. Give your full attention to wealth, ignore poverty. Whenever you think or speak of those who are poor, think and speak of them as those who are getting rich, as those to be congratulated instead of pitied. Then they and others will catch the inspiration and begin to look for the way out. Because I say that you should dedicate all your time, your mind and your thoughts to riches, it does not follow that you should be sordid and mean. Getting really rich is the noblest goal you can have in life, because it includes everything else. Pause equals 500. On the competitive level, the fight to get rich is a godless fight for power over other men, but when we enter the creative mind, all this changes. Everything that is possible on the path of greatness and development of the soul, of service and elevated effort, comes through the path of becoming rich. Everything is made possible by the use of things. If you lack physical health, you will see that its achievement is conditional on you becoming rich. Only those who emancipate themselves from worries economic and has the means to live without worry and follow hygienic practices, can have and maintain health. Moral and spiritual greatness is possible only for those who are above the competitive battle for existence, and only those who are enriching themselves on the plane of creative thought are free from the degrading influences of competition. If your heart is set on domestic happiness, remember that love flourishes best where there is refinement, a high level of thinking and freedom from corrupt influences, and this is found only where riches are achieved by the exercise of creative thought, without struggle or rivalry. You cannot aspire to anything so great or noble, I repeat, as becoming rich, and you must fix your attention on your mental image of wealth, excluding everything that may tend to obscure the vision. You must learn to see the underlying truth in all things. You must see beneath all the seemingly erroneous conditions the one great life that always advances toward fuller expression and more complete happiness. It is true that there is no such thing as poverty, that there is only wealth. Some people remain in poverty because they ignore that there is wealth for them, and these can best be taught by showing them the path to affluence in your own person and practice. Others are poor because, although they feel there is a way out, they are too intellectually indolent to make the necessary mental effort to find that path and travel it. And for them the best thing you can do is to awaken their desire by showing them the happiness that comes from being properly rich. Others are still poor because, although they have some notion of science, they have been so sunk and lost in the labyrinth of metaphysical and occult theories that do not know which path to take. They try a mixture of many systems and fail in all of them. For these, again, the best is show the right path in your own person and practice. An ounce of doing things is worth a pound of theorizing. The best thing you can do for the whole world is to bring out the best in yourself. You cannot serve God and to man more effectively than by enriching himself, that is, if you get rich by the creative method, and not by the competitive one. Another thing. We affirm that this book gives in detail the principles of the science of getting rich, and if that's true, you don't need to read any other books on the subject. This may sound narrow and selfish, but consider, there is no more scientific method of calculation in mathematics than addition, subtraction, multiplication and division. There is no other method possible. There can only be a shortest distance between 2 points. One way to think scientifically, and that is to think in the way that leads by the most direct route and simple to the goal. No man has yet formulated a system shorter or less complex than the one set forth here. It has been stripped of all non-essentials. When you begin this, leave aside everything else, get it out of your mind completely. Read this book every day, take it with you, keep it in memory, and don't think about other systems and theories. If you do, you will begin to have doubts, and become insecure and hesitant in your thinking, and then you will begin to make failures. After you have become good and rich, you can study other systems as much as you like, but until you are quite sure that you have got what you want, do not read anything in this line other than this book, unless they are the authors mentioned in the preface. And read only the most optimistic comments about world news, those that are in harmony with your image. Also, postpone your investigations into occultism. Do not get involved in theosophy, spiritualism or related studies. Wherever the spirits of the dead are, they have their own work to do, and their own problems to solve, and we have no right to interfere with them. We cannot help them, and it is very doubtful that they can help us, or that we have any right to invade their time if they can. If you start mixing with the occult, you will start mental cross-currents that will surely wreck your hopes. Now, this and the previous chapters have led us to the next statement of basic facts. There is a thinking matter of which all things are made and which, in its original state, permeates, penetrates and fills the interstices of the universe. A thought, in this substance, it produces the thing which is imagined by thought. Man can form things in his thought, and, by impressing his thought on the formless substance, he can cause the thing of which he thinks to be created. To do this, man must go from the competitive mind to the creative mind. You must form a clear mental image of the things you want, and hold this image in your thoughts with the fixed purpose of getting what you want, and the unwavering faith that you get what you want, closing your mind against everything that may tend to shake your purpose, darken your vision or extinguish your faith. And on top of all this, we will now see that you must live and act in a certain way. Chapter 11. Act certainly. Thought is the creative power, or the driving force that makes the creative power act. Thinking in a certain way will bring you riches, but you should not rely only on thought, without paying attention to personal action. That is the rock on which many metaphysical thinkers, otherwise scientists, who are shipwrecked. They do not connect thought with personal action. We have not yet reached the stage of development, even supposing that such a stage is possible, in which man can create directly from formless substance without the processes of nature or the work of human hands. Man must not only think, but his personal action must complement his thinking. With thought you can make the gold of the hearts of the mountains be propelled towards you, but it will not undermine itself, it will be refined, it will be coined into double eagles and it will come rolling down the road seeking its way into your pocket. Under the driving power of the Supreme Spirit, the affairs of men they will order in such a way that someone will be led to extract the gold for you. Other men's business transactions will be so directed that the gold will be brought to you, and you must arrange your own business affairs in such a way that you can receive it when it comes to you. Your thought makes all things, animate and inanimate, work to bring you what you want, but your personal activity must be such that you can correctly receive what you want when it comes to you. You must not take it as charity, nor steal it. You must give each man more in use value than he gives you in monetary value. The scientific use of thought consists in forming a clear and sharp mental image of what one wants, in staying firm in the purpose of getting what you want, and in realizing with grateful faith that you get what you want. Don't try to project your thought in any mysterious and hidden way, with the idea that it will go out and do things for you. That is a useless effort, and will weaken your power to think sanely. The action of thought to become rich is fully explained in the preceding chapters. Your faith and your purpose positively imprint your vision on the formless substance, which has the same desire for more life as you, and this vision, received from you, puts all the creative forces to work in and through their regular channels of action, but directed towards you. It is not your place to guide or supervise the creative process. All you have to do is keep your vision, stick to your purpose, and keep your faith and gratitude. But you must act in a certain way, so that you can take ownership of what is yours when it comes to you, so that you can meet the things that you have in your box, and put them in their place when they come. You can easily see the truth of this. When the things come to you, they will be in the hands of other men, who will ask for an equivalent for them. And you can only get what is yours by giving the other what is his. Your wallet is not going to transform it into a Fortunato wallet, which will always be full of money without effort on your part. This is the crucial point in the science of getting rich, right here, where thought and personal action must combine. There are many people who, consciously or unconsciously, put creative forces into action through the strength and persistence of their desires but who remain poor because they do not anticipate receiving the thing they want when it arrives. With thought, the thing you want is brought to you, with action you receive it. Whatever your action, it is clear that you must act now. You cannot act in the past, and it is essential for the clarity of your mental vision to discard the past from your mind. You cannot act in the future, because the future has not yet arrived. And you cannot say how you will want to act in any future contingency until that contingency has arrived. Don't think that you should postpone action until you are in the right business or environment, because you are not in the right business or the right environment now. And don't waste time in the present thinking about the best course in possible future emergencies. Have faith in your ability to deal with any emergency when it arrives. If you act in the present with your mind in the future, your present action will be with a divided mind, and will be ineffective. Pause equals 500. Put your whole mind into the present action. Do not give your creative impulse to the original substance and then sit back and wait for the results. If you do, you will never get them. Act now. There is never more time than now, and there will never be more time than now. If you want to start to prepare yourself to receive what you want, you must start now. And your action, whatever it may be, must most likely be in your current business or employment, and it must be about the people and things in your current environment. You cannot act where you are not, you cannot act where you have been, and you cannot act where you are going to be. You can only act where you are. Don't worry about whether yesterday's work was well or poorly done. Do today's work well. Don't try to do tomorrow's work now. There will be plenty of time to do it when you get down to it. Do not try, by occult or mystical means, to act on people or things that are beyond your reach. Do not wait to change the environment to act. Achieve a change of environment through action. You can act on the environment you are in to be transferred to a better environment. Hold with faith and purpose the vision of yourself in the best environment, but act in your current environment with all your heart, and with all your strength, and with all your mind. Don't waste time daydreaming or building castles. Hold on to the one vision of what you want, and act now. Don't look for a new thing to do or a strange, unusual or notable action to take as the first step to getting rich. Pause equals 500. Your actions, at least for some time, are likely to be what you have been doing for some time, but you must start now to take these actions on the safe path, which will surely make you rich. If you are engaged in any business and you feel that it is not the right one for you, do not wait to get into the right business to begin to act. Do not feel discouraged, nor lament because you are misplaced. No man was ever so badly placed but could find the right place, and no man was you were so involved in the wrong business that you were able to get into the right business. Maintain the vision of yourself in the right business, with the purpose of entering into it, and the faith that you will enter into it, and you are entering into it, but act on your current business. Use your current business as a means to a better one, and use your current environment as a means to enter a better one. Your vision of the right business, if you maintain it with faith and purpose, it will make the supreme move the right business towards you, and your action, if done in the right way, will move you towards business. If you are an employee, or a wage earner, and you feel that you must change places to get what you want, do not you project your thinking into space and hope that it will get you another job. It probably won't. Keep the vision of yourself in the job you want, as you act with faith and purpose in the job you have, and you will surely get the job you want. Your vision and your faith will set in motion the creative force to bring it to you, and your action will make the forces of your own will move you toward the place you desire. To close this chapter, we will add another statement to our syllabus: there is a thinking matter of which all things are made, and that, in their state, original, permeates, penetrates and fills the interstices of the universe. A thought, in this substance, produces the thing that is imagined by the thought. Man can form things in his thought, and, by imprinting his thoughts on the formless substance, he can cause the thing of which he thinks to be created. To do this, man must pass from the competitive mind to the creative mind. You must form a clear mental image of the things you want, and hold this image in your thoughts with the fixed purpose of getting what you want, and the unwavering faith that you get what you want, closing your mind to everything that may tend to shake his purpose, darken his vision, or quench his faith. In order for him to receive what he wants when it comes, man must act now on the people and things in his current environment. Chapter 12. Effective Action. You must use your thinking as indicated in the previous chapters, and begin to do what you can do where you are, and you must do everything you can do where you are. You can only advance by being larger than your current place, and no man is greater than his present place if he leaves undone some of the work that belongs to that place. The world advances only by those who more than fill their present places. Those who do not fully occupy their present place are a dead weight to society, government, commerce, and the industry. They must be carried by others at great cost in. The progress of the world is retarded only by those who do not occupy the places they are occupying. They belong to an earlier time and to a lower stage or plane of life, and their tendency is towards degeneration. No society could advance if each man were smaller than his place. Social evolution is guided by the law of physical and mental evolution. In the animal world, evolution is caused by excess life. When an organism has more life than it can express in the functions of its own plane, it develops the organs of a higher plane, and a new species arises. New species would never have existed if there had not been organisms that took their place with you grow. The law is exactly the same for you. Your enrichment depends on you applying this principle to your own affairs. Every day is a day of success or a day of failure, and it is the days of success that give you what you want. If every day is a failure, you will never be able to get rich, whereas if every day is a success, you cannot fail to get rich. If there is something that can be done today and you do not do it, you will have failed in regard to that thing, and the consequences may be more disastrous than you imagine. You cannot foresee the results of the most trivial act. You do not know the operation of all the forces that have been set in motion in your favor. Much may depend on you doing a simple act. It may be what opens the door of opportunity to very great possibilities. You can never know all the combinations that the Supreme Intelligence is making for you in the world of things and human affairs. Your negligence or failure to do some small thing can cause a long delay in getting what you want. Do, each day, everything that can be done that day. However, there is a limitation or qualification of the above that you must take into account. You should not work excessively, nor blindly rush into your business with the desire to do the greatest number of things in the shortest time possible. You should not try to do tomorrow's work today, nor do a week's work in one day. In reality, what counts is not the number of things what you do, but the effectiveness of each separate action. Each act is, in itself, a success or a failure. Every act is, in itself, effective or ineffective. Every inefficient act is a failure, and if you spend your life doing inefficient acts, your whole life will be a failure. The more things you do, the worse for you, if all your acts are inefficient. On the other hand, every efficient act is a success in itself, and if every act of your life is efficient, your entire life must be a success. You will see that it is a self-evident proposition that if you do no inefficient acts, and if you do a sufficient number of efficient acts, you will become rich. If, now, it is possible for you to make each act efficient, you see again that the obtaining of wealth is reduced to an exact science, like mathematics. Pause equals 500. The question, then, is whether you can make each separate act a success in itself. And this can be done. You can make every act a success, because all power is working with you, and all power cannot fail. Power is at your service, and for each act to be efficient you just have to put power into it. Each action is strong or weak, and when each one is strong, you are acting on the sure path that will make you rich. Each act can be made strong and efficient by maintaining your vision as you do it, and putting all the power of your faith and purpose into it. It is at this point that people who separate mental power from personal action fail. They use the power of the mind in one place and at one time, and act in another place and at another time. So his actions are not successful in themselves, many of them are inefficient. But if all power enters into every act, no matter how common, each act will be a success in itself, and as in the nature of things each success opens the way to other successes, your progress towards what you want, and the progress of what you want towards you, will be faster and faster. Remember that the successful action is cumulative in its results. Since the desire for more life is inherent in all things, when a man begins to move toward greater life, more things cling to him, and the influence of your desire is multiplied. Do, each day, everything you can do that day, and do each act efficiently. By saying that you must maintain your vision while as you perform each act, no matter how trivial or common, I do not mean that it is necessary at all times to see the vision clearly down to its smallest details. It should be the work of your leisure hours to use your imagination into the details of your vision, and contemplate them until they are firmly fixed in your memory. If you want quick results, devote practically all your free time to this practice. From continued contemplation you will obtain the image of what you desire, even down to the smallest details, so firmly fixed in your mind, and so completely transferred to the mind of the formless substance, that in your working hours you need only mentally refer to it, the image to stimulate your faith and your purpose, and bring your best effort to fruition. Contemplate your image in your leisure hours until your consciousness is so full of it that you can instantly grasp. They excite you so much with their brilliant promises that the mere fact of thinking about them will bring forth the strongest energies in your entire being. Let us repeat our program again, changing slightly final statements. Let's take it to the point we have reached. There is a thinking matter of which all things are made and which, in its original state, permeates, penetrates and fills the interstices of the universe. Pause equals 500. A thought, in this substance, produces the thing that is imagined by the thought. Man can form things in his thought, and, by impressing his thought on the formless substance, can make the thing he thinks about be believed. To do this, man must go from the competitive mind to the creative mind. You must form a clear mental picture of the things you want, and do, with faith and purpose, all that you can do each day, doing each thing separately efficiently. Chapter 13. How to get into the right business. Success, in any particular business, depends on the one hand on having in a well-developed state the faculties required in that business. Without a good musical faculty, no one can be successful as a music teacher. Without well-developed mechanical faculties, no one can achieve great success in any of the mechanical trades. Without tact and without commercial faculties, no one can be successful in commercial activities. But possessing in a well-developed state the faculties required in your particular vocation does not guarantee becoming rich. Musicians who have remarkable talent and yet remain poor, there are blacksmiths, carpenters, etc., who have excellent mechanical skill, but who do not become rich, and there are merchants with good faculties for dealing with men who, however, fail. The different faculties are tools. It is essential to have good tools, but it is also essential that the tools be used in the correct way. A man can take a sharp saw, a square, a good plane, etc. He does not know how to use good tools successfully. The various powers of your mind are the tools with which you must do the work that will make you rich. You will find it easier to succeed if you go into a business for which you are well equipped with mental tools. In general, you will do better in a business that uses your strongest faculties, the one for which you are naturally best suited. But there are also limitations to this statement. No man should consider that his vocation is irremediably fixed by the tendencies with which he has born. You can get rich in any business, because if you don't have the right talent for it, you can develop that talent. It simply means that you will have to make your tools as you go, rather than being limited to using the ones you were born with. You will have an easier time succeeding in a vocation for which you already have the talents in a well-developed state, but you can succeed in any vocation, because you can develop any rudimentary talent, and there is no talent of which you do not have at least the rudiment. You will be richer in effort more easily, if you do what you do. That you are better endowed, but you will be richer more satisfyingly if you do what you want to do. Doing what you want to do is life, and there is no real satisfaction in living if we are forced to always be doing something we don't like to do, and we can never do what we want to do. And it is true that you can do what you want to do. The desire to do it is proof that you have within you the power that can do it. Desire is a manifestation of power. The desire to play music is the power that can play music seeking expression and development. The desire to invent mechanical devices is mechanical talent seeking expression and development. Where there is no power, whether developed or undeveloped, to do a thing, there is never any desire to do that thing, and where there is a strong desire to do a thing, it is a sure proof that the power to do it is strong, and requires only to be developed and applied in the right way. Other things being equal, it is better choose the business for which you have the best developed talent, but if you have a strong desire to devote yourself to some particular line of work, you should select that work as the ultimate end to which you aspire. You may do whatever you like, and it is your right and privilege to pursue the business or the hobby that you find most enjoyable and enjoyable. You are not obliged to do what you do not like, and you should not do it other than as a means to get yourself to do what you want. If there are past mistakes whose consequences have placed you in an undesirable business or environment, you may be forced for some time to do what you do not like, but you can make doing it enjoyable by knowing that it's enabling you to do what you want to do. If you feel like you're not in the right calling, don't be too hasty in trying to get into another one. The best way, generally, to change your business or environment is growth. Don't be afraid to make a sudden and radical change if the opportunity presents itself, and you feel after careful consideration that it is the right opportunity, but never take sudden or radical action when you have doubts about the wisdom of doing so. There is never a rush on the creative level, and there is no lack of opportunities. When you get out of the competitive mind, you will understand that you should never act hastily. Nobody is going to win at what you want to do, there is enough for everyone. If one spot is occupied, a better one will open up for you a little further on, there is plenty of time. When in doubt, wait. Lean into the contemplation of your vision, and increase your faith and your purpose, and by all means, in moments of doubt and indecision, cultivate gratitude. A day or two spent contemplating the vision of what you want, and being sincerely grateful that you are getting it, will make your mind is in such a close relationship with the Supreme that you will not make any mistake when you act. There is a mind that knows everything there is to know, and you can come into close unity with this mind by faith and purpose to advance in life, if you have deep gratitude. Mistakes come from acting rashly, or from acting with fear or doubt, or with forgetting the right motive, which is more life for all, and less for none. As you advance on the safe path, opportunities will present themselves to you in increasing numbers, and you will need to be very firm in your faith and purpose, and keep in close contact with the Supreme Mind through reverent gratitude. Do all that you can do perfectly each day, but do it without haste, without worry, and without fear. Go as fast as you can, but never rush. Remember that the moment you start rushing you stop being a creator and become a competitor, you fall back into the old plane. Every time you find yourself in a hurry, stop, fix your attention on the mental image of the thing you desire, and begin to give thanks for having obtained it. The exercise of gratitude will never fail to strengthen your faith and renew your purpose. Chapter 14. The Impression of Increase. Whether you change your vocation or not, your actions for the present must be those of the business you are in now. You can enter the business you want by making constructive use of the business in which you are established, doing your daily work in a certain way. And inasmuch as your business consists in dealing with other men, whether in person or by letter, the key thought of all your efforts should be to convey to their minds the impression of increase. Increase is what all men and all women seek, it is the impulse of the formless intelligence within them, seeking fuller expression. The desire for increase is inherent in all nature, it is the fundamental drive of the universe. All human activities are based on the desire for increase. People look for more food, more clothing, better shelter, more luxury, more beauty, more knowledge, more pleasure, more of something, more life. Every living being is subject to this need for continuous advancement. Where the increase in life ceases, dissolution and death occur immediately. Man instinctively knows this, and that is why he always seeks more. This law of perpetual increase it is explained by Jesus in the parable of the talents. Only those who earn more retain something, from those who do not have, even what they have will be taken away from them. The normal desire to increase wealth is not an evil or something reprehensible, it is simply the desire for a more abundant life, it is an aspiration. And as it is the deepest instinct of their natures, all men and women are attracted to the one who can give them the most means of life. Following the path surely as described in the preceding pages, you are earning continuous increase for yourself, and you are giving it to all those with whom you deal. You are a creative center, from which increase arises for all. Make sure of this and convey the assurance of this fact to every man, woman and child with whom you come in contact. No matter how small the transaction, even if only whether it's selling candy to a small child, put the thought of increase in it, and make sure the customer is impressed with that thought. Convey the impression of progress with everything you do, so that everyone gets the impression that you are a man of advancement, and that you advance everyone who deals with you. Even the people you meet socially, without thinking about businesses, and to those you are not trying to sell anything, give them the thought of increase. You can convey this impression by maintaining the unwavering faith that you yourself are on the path of increase, and letting this faith inspire, fill and permeate every action. Do everything you do with the firm conviction that you are an advancing personality, and that you are giving advancement to the whole world. Pause equals 500. Feel that you are enriching yourself, and that by doing so you enrich others, and confer benefits on all. Do not boast or boast about your success, nor talk about it unnecessarily. True faith is never boastful. Wherever you find a boastful person, you find someone who secretly has doubts and fear. Simply feel the faith, and let it manifest in you. Each transaction, let every act and tone and look express the calm assurance that you are enriching yourself, that you are already rich. Words will not be necessary to communicate this feeling to others. They will feel the sensation of increase when they are in your presence, and they will be attracted to you again. You must impress others in such a way that they feel that by associating with you they will get an increase for themselves. Pause equals 500. Try to give them a use value greater than the cash value you are taking from them. Take honest pride in doing this, and let everyone know it, and you will not lack clients. People will go where they are given an increase, and the Supreme, who desires increase in all, and who knows everything, will move to you men and women who have never heard of you. Your business will increase rapidly, and you will be surprised by the unexpected benefits that will come to you. From day to day you will be able to make greater combinations, secure greater advantages, and will move on to a more congenial vocation if you wish. But by doing all this, you must lose sight of your vision of what you want, nor your faith and purpose to get what you want. Let me here give you another word of caution regarding motives. Beware with the insidious temptation to seek power over other men. Nothing is so pleasant to the unformed or partially developed mind as the exercise of power or dominion over others. The desire to rule for selfish gratification has been the curse of the world. For countless ages kings and lords have drenched the earth with blood in their battles to extend their dominions, this not to seek more life for everyone, but to gain more power for themselves. Today, the main motive in the world of business and industry is the same: men gather their armies of dollars, and destroy the lives and hearts of millions in the same mad struggle for power over others. Commercial kings, like political kings, are inspired by the desire for power. Jesus saw in this desire for dominion the impulse that moved that evil world he sought to overthrow. Read the 23rd chapter of Matthew, and see how it describes the desire of the Pharisees to be called Master, to sit on high, to dominate others and to put burdens on the backs of the less fortunate, and observe how he compares this desire for dominion with the fraternal pursuit of the common good to which he calls his disciples. Beware of the temptation to seek authority, to become a teacher, to be considered to be above the common herd, to impress others by lavish display, etc. The mind that seeks dominance over others is the competitive mind, and the competitive mind is not the creative one. To dominate your environment and your destiny, it is not at all necessary that you govern your peers, and in fact, when you fall into the world's struggle for high places, you begin to be conquered by fate and environment, and your enrichment becomes a matter of chance and speculation. Beware the competitive mind. No better statement of the principle of creative action can be formulated than the favorite statement of the late, Golden Rule, Jones of Toledo: "What I want for myself, I want for everyone." Chapter 15. The Man Who Advances. What I have said in the last chapter applies as much to the professional man and the salaried man as to the man who is engaged in mercantile business. It does not matter whether you are a doctor, a teacher, or a clergyman. If you can give increase of life to others and make them sensitive to the fact, they will be attracted to you, and you will be enriched. The doctor who has the vision of himself as a great and successful healer, and who works towards the complete realization of that vision with faith and purpose, as described in the preceding chapters, will come into such close contact with the source of life that it will be phenomenally successful. Patients will flock to him. No one has a greater opportunity to put the teachings of this book into practice than the medical practitioner. It does not matter to which of the various schools he may belong, because the principle of healing is common to all of them, and can be attained by all equally. The man who advances in medicine, who clings to a clear mental image of yourself as successful, and obeying the laws of faith, purpose and gratitude, will cure every curable case you undertake, no matter what remedies you use. In the field of religion, the world cries out for the clergyman who can teach his hearers the true science of abundant life. He who masters the details of the science of getting rich, together with the allied sciences of being well, if he is great and wins love, and teaches these details from the pulpit, he will never lack a congregation. This is the gospel that the world needs, it will give an increase of life, and men will listen to it gladly, and will give liberal support to the man who takes it. What is needed now is a demonstration of the science of life from the pulpit. We want preachers who not only tell us how to do it, but show us in their own person. We need a preacher who is rich, healthy, great and loved, to teach us how to achieve these things, and when he comes he will find a large and loyal following. The same is true of the teacher who can inspire children with faith and the purpose of life moving forward. Never know will be out of work. And any teacher who has this faith and purpose can give it to his students. You cannot help but give it to them if it is part of your own life and practice. What is true of the teacher, the preacher, and the doctor is true of the lawyer, the dentist, the real estate agent, the insurance agent. Safe for everyone. The combined mental and personal action I have described is infallible, cannot fail. Every man and woman who follows these instructions constantly, perseveringly and to the letter, will become rich. The law of the increase of life is as mathematically certain in its operation as the law of gravitation. Getting rich is an exact science. The salaryman will find this as true in his case as in any of the others mentioned. Don't feel like you have no chance of getting rich because you are working where there are no visible opportunities for advancement, where the salaries are small and the cost of living high. Form your clear mental vision of what you want, and begin to act with faith and purpose. Pause equals 500, do all the work you can do, every day, and do every piece of work perfectly successfully. Put the power of success, and the purpose of getting rich, in everything you do. But do not do it with the mere intention of currying favor with your employer, in the hope that he, or those above you, see your good work and overtake you. They are not likely to do so. The man who is simply a good worker, who fills his place as best he can, and is satisfied with it, is valuable to his employer, and he is not interested in moving up. He is worth more where he is. To ensure advancement, something more than being too big for his place is necessary. The man who is sure to advance is he who is too big for his place. Its place, and that it has a clear concept of what it wants to be, who knows he can become what he wants to be, and who is determined to be what he wants to be. Do not try to occupy more than your present place with a view to pleasing your employer, do it with the idea of advancing yourself. Keep the faith and purpose of increasing during work hours, after work hours and before work hours. Men will be attracted to you, and if there is no possibility of advancement in your current job, very soon you will see the opportunity to take up another job. There is a power that never fails to present opportunities to the advancing man who moves in obedience to the law. God cannot help but help you. If you act in a certain way, he must do it to help himself. There is nothing in your circumstances or the industrial situation that can hold you back. If you can't get rich working for a steel company, you can get rich in a company. 10-acre farm, and if you start moving on the safe path, you will certainly escape the clutches of the steel company and reach the farm or any other place you wish to be. If a few thousand of their employees took the path sure, the steel company would soon find itself in a bad situation. It would have to give its workers more opportunities or close the business. Nobody has to work for a consortium. Trusts can keep men in so-called desperate conditions only as long as there are men too ignorant to know the science of getting rich, or too intellectually lazy to practice it. Begin this way of thinking and acting, and your faith and purpose will make you quickly see any opportunity to improve your condition. Such opportunities will come quickly, because the Supreme, working in all, and working for you, will bring them before you. Don't wait for an opportunity to be everything you want to be. When an opportunity presents itself to be more than you are now and you feel compelled to do so, take it. It will be the first step towards a greater opportunity. There is nothing possible in this universe as the lack of opportunities for man who lives the life of advancement. It is inherent in the constitution of the cosmos that all things are for him and work together for his good, and you must certainly become rich if you act and think on the safe path. Therefore, let hired men and women study this book with great care, and enter with confidence into the course of action it prescribes, will not fail. Chapter 16. Some Precautions and Final Observations. Many people will scoff at the idea that there is an exact science to getting rich. Under the impression that the supply of wealth is limited, they will insist that social and governmental institutions must change before significant numbers of people can acquire competence. But this is not true. Pause equals 500. It is true that the existing governments keep the masses in poverty, but this is because the masses do not think or act on the safe path. If the masses begin to advance as this book suggests, neither governments nor industrial systems can stop them. All systems must be modified to accommodate forward movement. If people have the advanced mind, have the faith that they can become rich, and move forward with the fixed purpose of becoming so, nothing can keep her in poverty. Individuals can enter the safe passage at any time, and under any government, and become rich, and when a considerable number of individuals do so under any government, they will cause the system to be modified in such a way as to open the way for others. The more men become competitively rich, the worse for the men. Others, the more who become creatively enriched, the better for others. The economic salvation of the masses can only be achieved by ensuring that a large number of people practice the scientific methods set forth in this book, and become rich. These will show others the way, and inspire in them a desire for real life, with the faith that it can be achieved, and with the purpose of achieving it. For the moment, however, it is enough to know that neither the government you live under nor the capitalist or competitive system of industry can prevent you from becoming rich. When you enter the creative plane of thought, you will rise above all these things and you will become a citizen of another kingdom. But remember that your thinking must remain on the creative plane. You must not for a moment be betrayed into considering the offer as limited, or into acting on the moral level of the competition. Whenever you fall into old ways of thinking, correct it instantly, because when you are in the competitive mind, you have lost the cooperation of the whole mind. Don't spend any time planning how you are going to deal with possible emergencies in the future, except in regards to emergencies. Necessary policies that may affect your actions today. What you are concerned with is doing today's work perfectly successfully, and not with the emergencies that may arise tomorrow. You can meet them when they arrive. Do not worry about how to overcome the obstacles that may appear on the horizon of your business, unless you can clearly see that your course must be altered today to avoid them. No matter how formidable an obstacle may seem from a distance, you will find that if you follow the safe path it will disappear as you approach it, or that a path will appear to overcome, pass through, or go around it. No possible combination of circumstances can defeat a man or woman who proceeds to get rich along strictly scientific lines. No man or woman who obeys the law can fail to get rich, just as one can multiply 2 by 2 and not get 4. Do not think anxiously about possible catastrophes, obstacles, panics or unfavorable combinations of circumstances. Is time enough to face such things when they present themselves before you in the immediate present, and you will find that every difficulty carries with it the means of its overcoming. Watch your speech. Never talk about yourself, your affairs, or anything else in a discouraging or dispiriting way. Never admit the possibility of failure, nor talk in a way that infers that failure is a possibility. Never talk about times being tough, or business conditions dubious. Times can be tough and business dubious for those on the plane. Competitive, but they can never be competitive for you. You can create what you want, and you are above fear. When others are going through difficult times and a bad deal, you will find your greatest opportunities. Train yourself to think and see the world as something that is becoming, that is growing, and to regard apparent evil as something that is undeveloped. Always speak in terms of progress. To do otherwise is to deny your faith, and to deny your faith is to lose it. Never allow yourself to be disappointed. You can expect to have a certain thing at a certain time, and not get it at that time. Moment, and this will seem like a failure to you. But if you hold on to your faith, you will discover that the failure is only apparent. Continue in the determined way, and if you do not receive that thing, you will receive something much better, that you will see that the apparent failure was really a great success. A student of this science had proposed to carry out a certain business combination that at the time seemed very desirable, and he worked for a few weeks to carry it out. When the crucial moment arrived, the thing failed in a perfectly inexplicable way. It was as if an invisible influence had been secretly working against him. He was not disappointed; on the contrary, he thanked God that his wish had been nullified, and moved forward with a grateful mind. Within a few weeks a much better opportunity presented itself to him, and he would not have made the first deal under any circumstances. And he saw that a mind that knew more than he had prevented him from losing the greater good by tangling with the lesser. That is the way every apparent failure will work for you. If you keep your faith, you hold on for your purpose, you have gratitude, and you do, each day, everything that can be done that day, doing each separate act successfully. When you fail, it is because you have not asked for enough. Keep going, and a greater thing than you sought will surely come to you. Remember this. You will not fail because you do not have the talent to do what you want. Pause equals 500. If you continue as I have indicated, you will develop all the talent necessary to do your job. It is not within the scope of this book to discuss the science of cultivating talent, but it is as true and simple as the process of becoming rich. However, do not hesitate or falter for fear that when you reach a certain place you will fail for want of ability. Press on, and when you reach that place, skill will be given to you. The same source of skill that enabled the inexperienced Lincoln to accomplish the greatest work of government ever accomplished by a single man, is open to you. You can draw on all the mind that exists so that wisdom can help you fulfill the responsibilities imposed on you. Go forward with full faith. Study this book. Pause equals 500. Make it your constant companion until you have mastered all the ideas contained in it. As long as you establish yourself firmly in this faith, you will do well to renounce most entertainments and pleasures, and stay away from places where contradictory ideas are presented in lectures or sermons. Do not read pessimistic or conflictive literature, nor engage in discussions on the subject. Read very little, apart from the writers mentioned in the preface. Spend most of your free time contemplating your vision, cultivating gratitude, and reading this book. It contains everything you need to know about the science of getting rich, and you'll find all the essentials summarized in the next chapter. Chapter 17. Summary of the Science of Getting Rich. There is a thinking matter of which all things are made and which, in its original state, permeates, penetrates and fills the interstices of the universe. A thought in this substance produces the thing that is imagined by the thought. Man can form things in his thought, and by imprinting his thought on the formless substance he can cause the thing of which he thinks to be created. To do this, man must move from the competitive mind to the creative one, otherwise, he cannot be in harmony with the formless intelligence, which is always creative and never competitive in spirit. Man can come into full harmony with the formless substance, if he maintains a living and sincere gratitude for the blessings bestowed upon him. Gratitude unifies the mind of man with the intelligence of substance, so that man's thoughts are received by the formless. Man must form a clear and definite mental image of the things he wishes to have, do or become, and he must keep this mental image in his thoughts, while deeply thanking the Supreme that all his wishes are granted to him. The man who wishes to become rich must dedicate his leisure hours to contemplating his vision, and to sincerely thank that reality be granted to you. The importance of frequent contemplation of the mental image, coupled with unwavering faith and devout gratitude, cannot be overemphasized. This is the process by which the impression is given to the formless, and the creative forces are set in motion. The creative energy works through the established channels of natural growth and industrial and social order. Pause equals 500. Everything that is included in your mental image will surely be brought to the man who follows the instructions given above, and whose faith does not waver. What he desires will come to him through the paths of commerce established. To receive what is his when it comes, man must be active, and this activity can only consist of more than filling your present place. You must keep in mind the purpose of enriching yourself by realizing your mental image. And you must do, every day, all that he can do that day, taking care to do each act successfully. Give each man a use value in excess of the cash value he receives, so that each transaction makes more life, and he must maintain the advanced thought in such a way that the impression of increase is communicated to all with whom he comes in contact. Men and women who put the above instructions into practice will certainly be enriched, and the riches you receive will be in exact proportion to the definition of your vision, the fixity of your purpose, the firmness of your faith, and the depth of your gratitude.